Welcome back. Now, it seems not a week can go by in the world of tech without some major new story around artificial intelligence.
Yes, and here to bring us up to speed on the latest is the host of For Tech's Sake podcast, Elaine Burke. Good morning to Elaine. And we are going to start with Microsoft and a study that they've done and some interesting findings. Tell us.
Yeah, so Microsoft Research and Carnegie Mellon University did a survey of just over 300 knowledge workers and got them to self-report some of their experiences with using AI tools. And some of the conclusions of that study have said that critical skills and critical thinking are actually declining the more you rely on an AI tool as an assistant or, you know, as a replacement in your work.
So what sort of things would you be asking them that you'd be like, OK, I'll just do that on AI? It could be anything.
It could be, yeah. So this was like to do with their tasks and in terms of knowledge work. So they were probably getting to help write an email, to help compiling reports, things like that, when you're talking about the generative AI text engines. And they were finding that as they were like more confident in the tools, it kind of meant that they were less confident in their ability to actually evaluate the outputs of that tool.
It sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Because you're not using your full potential because a lot of it's there for you, so you're not really getting involved in it.
Yeah, you're kind of like, you know, if you don't use it, you'll lose it kind of a concept. And if you're not constantly challenging yourself to do the work, you actually become less able to even check the work of someone else. And this is not, like, this is one study, but this is actually repeated through a few studies, and it's come up before, that there's this idea of automation complacency. That's what a researcher out of University of Queensland has called it. And it's like, you rely on automation so much that you become unable, even when you were trained maybe in the skill of originally, or you even helped train the AI in the skill, you actually might just degrade your own skills and you have the skill erosion. And when you talk about automation complacency, you can see where sometimes people like will over-rely on a satellite navigation technology and follow that blindly. There's a great example in The Office where Michael Scott just drives into a lake because the app is telling him to turn right there. And that actually happened in real life. Like a Belgian bus driver went on a 1,200 kilometre detour with a bus full of tourists because the app told him to
do it.
But that can have much more kind of scary examples when you look at the erosion in the aviation industry of piloting skills.
Don't start that now. But surely pilots are trained that if it all goes, you have to manually do it.
That is how they're trained. But their training now is also all about working with automation tools. And this has been discussed for years in aviation, by the way. This is a problem that they've been aware of for a really long time and are constantly working to counteract it. I'm not trying to scaremonger, but it just shows an example of an industry that has had to self-correct because of this as an issue.
Because it was moving towards the automated.
And when you're going to have to take manual control is probably in a crisis situation, and you're going to feel even less comfortable doing it yourself.
We've seen it happen with the calculator. You know, we sit there trying to do your 12 times table, you're going to get out your calculator. This is what's going to happen with AI. You do you know? There was a woman on the American Traitors. She did 324 and she got it, and they were all like, how did you multiply that in your head? It was bizarre to see it. So that's
the rest of them all take the calculator out.
They didn't. They just didn't know how she did it. They were like, I don't know what that is. 324, I don't know. And she just went 92 left. So that is your critical thinking skills are going away because of AI. Fantastic. Now, scientists have created an e-taste. The amount of times in the 80s you'd be hearing things about smell-o-vision, or 90s. What's e-taste?
It's a fun term for this scientific research that's just kind of exploring if you could send a taste the way you send an email. So that's the concept that they're looking into, and maybe it could end up being used in like immersive experiences where you want people to not just kind of see and hear things, but maybe feel, taste, and all that.
If you're in virtual reality.
How does
Possibly.
it work?
So it's actually like you'd have to kind of suck through a straw this liquid that's produced with the various components of taste in there. So they'll have like a taste that gives you salt, they'll have a taste that gives you acid, they'll have a taste that gives you the kind of umami taste, which is based on glutamate. So they have the basic components of those tastes involved in this liquid substrate, and they like emit the various components depending on what taste you're trying to send. And apparently they got 87% accuracy of what taste they were trying to send when they were testing it. But it could also help people, say if you're trying to determine if someone has had damage to their taste buds through some condition or something like that, which was actually quite common through COVID. I think some people lost their taste.
Their taste and smell,
you'd be able to maybe try and determine that.
Some matrixy stuff though, but with the rise of things like Manjaro and Ozempic and people not being able to perhaps eat the food that they want anymore, I wonder, is there a correlation between kind of going, how are you? Sure, look, just drink this and you can have your Big Mac.
What's the Japanese spoon then design?
So, this reminded me of some experiment, like I think it was over 10 years ago, where there was this spoon developed by Japanese researchers that zapped your tongue to actually give you the taste of saltiness. And it was actually to help people have less salt in their diet. And I would actually benefit from that, I think, because I love salty things.
So if you took this while you were having a meal, so you just lick the spoon, and then you could have a meal, but it tasted like it was lovely salty.
It would taste saltier.
There's nice and salt in it, but there's no salt in it.
It's kind of exploring how we actually experience taste. So like a zap on your tongue can give you the experience of saltiness, or these basic components like glutamate and sodium chloride and stuff like that will give you the basic flavors. And it's kind of looking into that.
But for somebody who needed to cut their salt levels, that would sort of be.
That would be helpful.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah, and we could all probably do it having less salt in our diet.
If for an illness, if you really needed to cut your salt levels, just cut them out anyway. But that would help.
Yeah, I wouldn't like fancy eating crisps with a spoon, but like I could probably.
I'd be convinced. Just mush those things up. It's just interesting as we're moving away, like as we see food regulation changing and America trying to have an effect on European food regulation, which is very much fake food.
Yeah.
But as,
trying to stay,
as science goes, what this is uncovering is like details around taste and our perception of taste and stuff like that. So it's not completely.
I haven't got to complete the matrix. How do we know this tastes like chicken?
Very quickly now, Apple has officially confirmed that their new overhauled Siri is going to be delayed indefinitely.
Yeah, so this is trying to integrate more AI into Siri and turn it into something that's been called like an AI agent, where it might be able to do things for you. Like you ask Siri to book you a table in a restaurant, and it can open up, maybe you have the Open Table app or something on your phone, and it can do that for you. They have now said that that's not going to happen in 2025. They had originally tabled it for a release this year, and it's moved to 2026. And I would imagine that this is in response to the problems that they had with their AI summaries for news, which they got a lot of terrible feedback over. It was generating false news and attributing it to legitimate news sites, which is a really big problem. Originally, they tried to dial it back, and now they've suspended it completely. And now all AI summaries are produced in italics to try and tell the user that this is an AI
that you're
summary.
doing that. Interesting. You'll have to book your hotels yourself. It's a terrible world, isn't it?
Well, people who have tried these agents have said it wasn't really worth any time saved or anything like that. So.
I want to try the salt spoon.
Elaine will try to get a source to one of those now. For tech's sake is the podcast. Elaine Burke, thank you so much for all of that. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.